Speaking of Italian grifts, how'd you go with Johnny Vincent Sand?
It was actually really nice.
I was thinking about it.
It was actually really nice. So,
Italians are so easily satisfied. We give them our ancient shit. They love it.
Yeah. All right. So,
what's that, columns? We don't want them anymore.
Corinthian, Roman.
Where's that? That's
Get your columns here. Greek, Roman, Corinthian.
I gotta watch that now. I forgot about that.
It just bangs like it's just a normal market day.
I'm gonna find it. Keep talking. I'm gonna find it.
So, I can understand how normal people who aren't probably following, who aren't Italian, would be very frustrated about the whole experience. So we went under the assumption, when we went that night, I was under the assumption it was only going to be 4 of us, 5 of us max. Turned out there was a group of 11 people. I was a little bit annoyed about that. But it was a nice night. We ended up sitting outside, not in, so I didn't get to see all the day, like the decorations, decor, all that stuff. Did go to the bathroom, passed a lot of it. We basically had a booking, but we didn't have a booking. We had to wait nearly 50 minutes.
For what?
To get a table.
Oh, God.
So we got there at, I think it was...
It's not a scam at all, is it?
No, because it was packed. It was packed to the arse.
Yes, of course.
So we were waiting, and we just went and had a drink down at Brunetti's. It's not far from there. So I just went down there. Then we got the phone call. All right, it's ready. So we headed down. They're like, if you want to come, because they complained, oh, you said inside. No, your group's too big. It'll have to be outside. If you want to wait for the table in there for that size, it's going to be another. Minutes. No, it's going to be another hour. Like, no, forget it. So we just ate outside. It was fine. But when we were sitting, waiting, eating, there was a couple groups of like Aussies, Shazzers and Bazzers, with the kids.
Shazzers and Bazzers.
And they just walked up because they saw a line, and they had been waiting there probably about 25 minutes. And then they were like, do you know how much longer it's going to be? And like the hostess was like, how many are you? It was like 4. Probably about another...
4 is too many people for inside.
No, the place was packed. There was no tables anywhere. It was completely packed. The people inside were taking long-ass times to leave. I think that could hurry them on along, maybe make it like sessions of like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Yeah. Just so that they got people moving on. Because from when we got there was already a couple tables inside. When we left, we were there for probably a good couple of hours. That was still there after we left. And we're like, well, what are they doing? Like, eat and piss off.
What are they doing?
You know?
What are they doing in there?
So when they said, probably another 25 minutes because you want to go inside. So it's going to probably be another. The mother's like, F this, let's go. I'm like, well, you don't want to wait. What do you think? Like, the place is pumping. They're not just going to throw you a table.
Why even go to a restaurant that has a line if you're not going to be patient about it? Yeah.
Like, but then the funny thing was, because I heard them say her name when she said it, it wasn't even 10 minutes later, they called out the name, and then, like, they had already gone. So it was actually a 10-minute wait.
Yeah. They give them worst-case scenarios.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't predict when someone's going to finish eating and leave.
But
when's the next table free? 2 days.
Oh, mate, it just came... Yeah, we're good now.
No. Come on. Come on in. Yeah. We've got a table clearing it up right now. What?
So we ended up getting pizzas.
Yeah.
Wait. You wanted to go for that meal, the Parmesan thing.
No, I didn't end up getting a chicken parma.
You all got pizzas?
No. Some people got pizzas. I'm saying what everybody got.
I ended up having veal, by the way, about a week ago. It's very good. Anyway, continue.
So entrees were like everyone. They just got an entree. So basically, one of the guys that was with us is a little bit of a like. How can I say this? He's one of those try-hard dudes that still thinks he's from the motherland.
And he was born here?
No, he was born overseas, came here when he was like 2.
2?
Yeah. But, if he finds out the waiter's Italian, he's his best friend, he talks to him in Italian the whole night.
We discussed some... North or south?
Middle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does, man.
But he's like the biggest wog of the wog. Like rocks up, he's got a Juve cap on with a Juve jacket. Takes off the Juve jacket, he's got a Juve top on. I'm like, all right, man. Like, take it easy. This is like the mutual friend of the friend. You know, you know, I'm going there with a friend, but then it's like her mates from her side. I don't really like going out with that group when certain people are from the western side.
If you're
that are
wearing
going to be.
a Juve hat, jacket, and you got a top underneath, fuck me.
I
know. Dude, you don't play for them, so just relax.
I know.
Even the soccer players don't have all that merch. Do you know what I mean?
Even when they're playing.
Exactly.
When they're training, they're wearing like a plain training top, man.
So he got talking to the waiter and all that. And because he got talking to him, the waiter ended up, so he threw a couple things in here and there.
Here's your knife and forks.
Yeah, here's your knife and forks. So there was a whole bunch of stuff. There was like arancini.
Uh-huh.
They were probably the best arancini I've ever had in my life.
As in not frozen?
Not frozen, freshly cooked. Like,
the big grift is when you go somewhere and they say finger food and tapas, it's arancini balls.
Yeah.
The frozen cold hard arancini balls.
These were like, I've had many arancini in my life because that's like the staple of like Italian food. And it's probably one of the nicest ones I've ever had. Now, I remember you saying like some of the reviews that night we talked about, like these aren't arancini, they were rubbish. Like, I don't know what that person had. Like, maybe they had a bad batch, but the ones I had, like,
were they homemade?
Yeah.
Okay, so they weren't frozen.
The dude who came up with the recipe is the guy that owns 400.
What's 400?
Gradi.
Oh, Gradi. Sorry.
So he's actually worked with them and he's come up with the menu. And I mean, he's not cooking it, but the dude.
But the recipes or whatever.
The menu was approved by
him, and he adjusts and so forth.
Yeah.
But that's high expectations on the pizza then.
Yeah, and the pizzas were nice.
They were fired?
I think so.
Or oven?
I don't know, to be honest.
A microwave.
Microwave, yeah.
What was that?
But they weren't circular. They were square pizzas, which is interesting. And they were like traditional style. Kind of. Like a mixture. Kind of. Yeah. Because the whole point is to mimic like what you're having at home. So like, the homemade ones. I didn't hear what he said. I didn't hear what he said.
I can't breathe. I said microwave. So it's gone ding. What was that? You picture a full pack pressure on one microwave doing everyone's meals. It's like an old one from the 90s. It was white, now it's like cream. Yeah. And that big button on the bottom to open the door.
It's still got the plastic on the buttons. It's slowly peeling off.
They never took the plastic off.
Doing everyone's parmesan. Sorry, man. I couldn't think because he full reacted. He jumped. Oh, fuck, I got tears. All right, so hang on. Did anyone get any food, like actual food?
Yeah, I got pasta. A few people got pasta. They all pretty much like their pasta. I found mine was... The thing is, I'm used to eating overcooked pasta.
Yeah.
So when it's given to al dente, it's just you're not used to it. And so it just feels chewy, but it's not. That's actually how it is, but it's not chewy. So I
said that about some frozen Greek sweets that are coming in from overseas, yeah? Someone I know is like bringing them in, like importing them. And they're frozen, but it's like baklava, like gurabiedes, the shortbread with the icing.
They're supposed to be crunchy, aren't they?
When it's shortbread, yes. Yeah. Right? The melamakarona, which is like that brown sort of log with the crushed walnuts and honey.
Yeah.
And they're frozen. Like they're brought over here frozen. On price point, they're like $5-6 per kilo cheaper. So there is an incentive to buying them. The same way A1
Wouldn't that ruin the...
You'd think so, yeah?
Yeah.
But I got invited to like a taste testing thing for it. So I've gone in and they've got them all out. I'm like, well, visually they look fine, right? And there's a bunch of different ones, right?
How does that work though? Because one's covered in powdered sugar.
You got like the buriko, like that one as well. And I'm like looking at them. I'm like, okay, so visually they look fine.
What happens to the water?
It's all vacuum sealed into like a little...
Oh, if it's vacuum sealed, that's different.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've
We've
tried
been
it.
frozen. It's just a block of ice.
The baklava was on point.
Yeah.
It was extra syrupy, but that's just really
It's that. It's always syrupy. Yeah.
But as far as taste, never would have known it was frozen from a shipping container in Greece. Yeah. The melamakarona, I'm eating it. I'm like, look, the texture's not quite there, but the taste is fine. And then I said to myself, I go, hang on, man. I've been eating my mum's melamakarona for like the last 40 years. I'm used to the texture of the one she makes.
Fresh
But
texture.
the kid like that was in the taste testing, he had bought some of his own that he'd made over New Year's Eve, and he'd like offered them, with coffee, or whatever. And I'd eaten them, and they had the same texture as the ones in the frozen ones.
So he actually bought the frozen one.
Yeah.
I made these at home.
Yeah, he had it in a big
Big
like
plastic
a tub.
stick. Corinthian.
Yeah.
Roman.
But like I go, but the texture matches the one he has, and probably
Get
the same
your
ones that old
calories
mate
in.
over there makes as well. So really,
Roman.
you guys we're all picking
Corinthian.
these apart. But the reality is, we've all grown up in different houses with different experiences,
Yeah, different recipes.
The average
It
punter
just
that's going to pay
bangs.
$6
Like it's
less
just a
a
normal
kilo for
market
these
day.
over the counter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give a shit.
So,
Yeah.
Like the
I
same
can
with
understand
Australia.
how normal people
like
who
those,
aren't
those
probably
styles
following
of,
who aren't
biscuits.
Italian
Really?
would be
Yeah.
very
I
frustrated
didn't know
about
that.
Yeah, I
the
saw
whole
them
experience.
yesterday
I
when I
should
went.
probably let them know.
So we went
And they're
under the
cheap.
assumption
Oh,
when
yeah.
we went that
Well,
night.
if you're going
I was under the
$6-7
assumption there's only going to be
bucks
4 of
cheaper
us,
on
5 of us
per kilo than
max.
what you do at Fresh.
Found out there was a
Dude,
group of
Nichols and
11
Vanilla
people.
is untouchable
I was a little
now.
bit annoyed about
You go
that.
there, you buy 4
But it was a
pieces of
nice
cake,
night.
it's 50
We ended up
bucks.
sitting
Yeah, yeah.
outside
What do you
not
mean? Do you
in,
remember
so
when
I
we
didn't
came
get
in?
to see all the day.
What episode was it?
Decorations,
I bought
decor,
coffees
all
and I
that
ended up
stuff.
buying like...
Did go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
passed a lot of it.
And I dropped like 60 bucks on 2 coffees.
Basically
Oh, yeah,
had a
yeah,
booking,
Those sweets were for like us.
but we
and it
still
cost me
no, we
60
didn't have a
bucks.
booking.
Dude, that's the price
We
of
had
2
to
large
wait
meals. Anyway, so what else with this...
nearly 50 minutes
Al dente pasta.
to get a table. So
Which
we got
pasta?
there at I think it was
linguine. Or penne.
No, because
I was going to say
it
linguine
was
or penne.
packed. It was packed to the arse. So we were waiting, and we just went and had a drink down at Brunetti's. It's not far from there. So just went down there. Then we got the phone call. All right, it's ready. So we headed down.
Off cuts.
Like, if you want to cut, because they complain, oh, you said inside. No, your group's too big. It'll have to be outside.
How do
If
you
you want
say
to
it?
wait for the table in there for that size, it's going to be another. No, it's going to be another hour. Like, nah, forget it. So we just ate outside. It was fine. But
Imagine
when we
that,
were
rock it
sitting
up.
waiting,
And food?
that evening, there
How many
was a couple
drinks? Crab
groups
juice.
of like Aussies, Shazzes and Bazzers with the kids, and they just walked up because they saw a line, and they had been waiting there probably about 25 minutes, and then they were
like
like,
slow
"Oh, do you know how much longer
would
it's
say
going to
that.
be?"
Just meat's fine.
And like the hostess was
meat
like,
on a
"Oh,
stick.
how many
Meat, slow-cooked
are you?"
meat.
It was like 4.
A lot of
Oh,
meat.
probably about another.
Some more meat. So you had meat.
No, the place
we
was
got a
packed.
salad which consisted
There was no
of different types
tables
of meat.
anywhere. It was completely packed. The people inside were taking long ass times to leave. I think they could hurry them along, maybe make it like
There was pork, chicken,
sessions
beef,
of like
lamb.
an hour and a half to 2 hours.
It was a great
just so
salad.
that they got people moving on. Because from when we got there was already a couple tables inside. When we left, we were there for
Beautiful
probably a good
colours,
couple of hours.
white meat,
They
dark
were still
meat.
there after we left. And I'm like, well, what are they doing? Like, eat and piss off.
So what dressing do you use? Braised
No.
meat.
But then we actually had some beef tallow melted on top.
So
fantastic
when
dressing.
they said, "Oh, probably another 25 minutes because you want to go inside, so it's going to probably be another." The mum's like,
Vegan
"Oh,
friendly
F this, let's go."
Just on meat.
Like, well, you don't
was
want
really
to
solid. We did put some oregano
What
in
do you think? Like the place is pumping.
Ragu,
They're not just
yeah.
going to throw you a table. Exactly.
Okay.
Like, yeah. But then the funny thing was, because I heard them say her name when she
Yeah.
said it, it wasn't even 10 minutes later, they called out the name, and then, like, they had already gone. So it was actually a 10-minute wait. Yeah, exactly. You just say, nah, of course not. Yeah. But
When's the next table free? 2 days.
Oh, wait, just came. Yeah,
Okay, so that's not really that expensive.
it's about average.
What?
the
What about
so
the
we ended
pork?
up getting pizzas.
Yeah.
I ended up
Really? Yeah, it's like
No, I didn't
when
end up
people
getting
come
chicken
in
parma.
dinner at my house and I've got the plates of my mum.
no. Some people got pizzas. I'm saying what everybody got.
Go back to the restaurant and still
It was always nice. So entrees were like everyone just
John
got an
comes
entree.
in with a
So basically, one of the guys that was with us is a little bit of a like how can I say this? He's one of those try-hard dudes that still thinks he's from the motherland. And he's just... No, he was born overseas, came here when he was like 2.
Oh, fantastic.
But, if he finds out the waiter's Italian, he's his best friend, he talks to him in Italian the whole night. We discussed some...
It's the same guy with the Juve jacket.
Yeah.
All right.
But he's like the biggest wog of the wog. Like, rocks up, he's got a Juve cap on with a Juve jacket. Takes off the Juve jacket, he's got a Juve top on. I'm like, all right, man, like, take it easy. This is like the mutual friend of the friend.
Dude,
I'm going there with a friend, but then it's like her mates from her side. I don't really like going out with that group when certain people are from
Macca's for you.
The western side.
Macca's run.
Fuck me.
I know.
Yeah, I don't go to dinner with people like that.
I know.
Even the soccer players don't have all that merch.
Even when they're playing. Coffee's one. Hot. Someone ordered an iced coffee, which is unfortunate. Came out hot, but...
So he got talking to the waiter and all that. Because he got talking to the waiter, ended up, so he threw a couple things in here and there. Yeah, here's your knife and forks. So there was a whole bunch of stuff. There was like arancini. They were probably the best arancini I've ever had in my life.
As in not frozen?
Not frozen, freshly cooked. Like, actually nice. These were like, I've had many arancini in my life because that's like the staple of like Italian food. And it's probably one of the nicest ones I've ever had. I remember you saying like some of the reviews that night we talked about like these aren't arancini, they were rubbish. Like, I don't know what that person had. Like, maybe they had a bad batch, but the ones I had...
He's just sweet vermouth with a twist.
Yeah.
I ordered a macchiato. You're sweet
the dude who came up with the recipe is the guy that owns 400.
What's the twist?
Brady.
It's a macchiato.
So he's actually worked with them and he's come up with the menu. And, I mean, he's not cooking it, but the dudes that are...
shit.
Yeah, him. And he adjusts and so forth.
The twist is a macchiato.
Yeah, and the pizzas were nice. They were... I think so.
Sorry.
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay. Fuck off. You had your moment. You've been bagging me for 2 hours.
Who's been bagging who?
No,
I didn't bag him for 2 hours. What was I bagging him about?
You guys are bagging me for 2 hours. At least I'm laughing neutrally right now.
I give it
score, go.
7.5 to 8.
Oh, jeez, that's pretty high.
Give it a score out of 100. I want to see how much in the decimal.
7.5 to 8. Nah,
70 to 80.
I'd probably give it like an
78.
82.
82, so on the higher end.
Yeah, like it was good food.
Would you go back? Nah. Yeah, there you go.
I would, but I would go at like a lunchtime period.
What, to make sure you get a seat.
Yeah, inside. Because apparently if you go at lunch, you get seating like that because it's not busy.
Seating out aside, let's say you can just go there.
For food?
You
for
can
food,
make a reservation.
fantastic.
Let's say you can make a reservation anytime you want.
Yeah, I'd go back.
You would?
Yeah. I don't think I'd go back more than probably 3 or 4 times.
Ever?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an 8.2.
That's not an 8.2.
I don't go out for food much. That's the thing.
8.2 is Andy says, let's go get a bite. I say where. He says the name of a restaurant. I don't even question it. Like, yeah, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
I was there 4 months ago. Doesn't matter. I'll go.
The thing is,
that's an 8.2.
I will enjoy a place and I will love it, but I might not necessarily go back because I don't go out for dinner much. So,
like, for me, an 8 would be Grati. If you said to me every month, let's hit Grati for a pizza, I'd be like, yeah, done. I'd go to Grati for a
which
pizza.
Grati?
The Crown.
I haven't been to that one. I've been to the one in Mornington.
Oh, yeah.
That one I wasn't too impressed with.
I thought you were going to say Gami, that Korean chicken joint. So that's an 8.
See, that's a 6 for me.
Yeah.
Only because of the lack of flavor, the lack of different variety of flavors.
It's just two flavors.
It's just straight up. Yeah.
It's either sort of like tangy, sweet
and
then hot.
Yeah, sweet and hot, whatever. And the garlic soy.
Yeah,
yeah.
This is Gami, yeah? They don't have a menu, man. It's just chicken and that's
They
it.
do have a menu.
It's all like
Yeah, but that's the
macaroni.
Point. It's but that's
and
Korean. They love macaroni and cheese over there. Everything Korean, dude. Everything in Korea, everything has cheese. It's like they love it. They put it in everything. It makes no sense.
All of their spicy stuff has cheese.
It's like they discovered this garnishy thing that they never had.
It's just cheese.
It's always melted cheese.
Cabbage with cheese. Like pasta, cheese. Rice,
Tteokbokki,
cheese. My mum went to South Korea. She said everything has cheese. Like their food. She goes, the people are lovely. The people are friendly. The cities are some of the cleanest cities she's ever seen in her life. She goes, but the letdown's the food. The food's bland and everything has cheese. Because like cheese is, dude, cheese hits every like receptor, yeah? Because it's like fatty, creamy,
Salty.
piquante, salty, sweet. Like you get it all in there if you pick the right sort of cheese. So the Koreans just jumped on it. Like, hey, this is a new thing for us. And that's what they do.
Okay.
Dude, Vietnamese food, yeah? You know what the secret is to Vietnamese food? Soy sauce and sugar.
That's the same for most Asian countries.
Yeah.
Actually,
Or
Korea's the
MSG.
same. Japan's the same.
Yeah,
They
China's
all use the same
MSG.
thing. Soy sauce and sugar
Yeah.
makes up like 80% of their cuisine. And you know what? If you fight them on that, they'll argue it and they'll be like, no, that's not the case. It's like, look at your sauces.
But it
Look at
is.
all the dishes.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. I'm not criticizing it because the secret to all Greek dishes is garlic, oregano, and salt. It's the same thing. Every country's got its thing.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But Korea, like I said, my mum had gone and she said, lovely place, but I couldn't go back because the food was that bland and just uninspired. Like,
Yeah.
it was just weird, you know? Just didn't hit it. You know what I mean?
Have you heard about that new documentary, We Are What We Eat?
No. What is it?
So
A Twinkie?
I didn't read anything about it going into this. I just thought I was bored. I wanted some, that peripheral something. So I put this on, right? It was like a 5-episode, I think, documentary on diets. And I didn't know that it was like what it was advocating for. I just thought it was an experiment between a bunch of twins.
It was a meat-free documentary, wasn't it?
just a documentary that compares diets between two twins.
Yeah.
Right? Or multiple twins, should I say. There
Was it
like-
German?
No. I think there was like 8 groups of twins. One gets put on a vegan diet. One gets put on an omnivore
This sounds
diet.
German.
It's not.
It was Austrian.
Ekman, whatever his name was. Dude, Mengele. It was Mengele. That's who it was.
And
Dr. Mengele.
so from the first episode, it does seem a little bit weird. Like there's something off about it when
Sure.
the way they're talking about like cheese being
Because
a really horrible
they've got to
thing.
get you in the first episode, and then they spray it on you on the second.
So in the first episode,
Isn't that how
it's-
the rise of National Socialism was? They got you in with all the rhetoric
propaganda,
about,
like, yeah,
rhetoric
yeah.
about Jews. National pride.
well, like the first episode's it's somewhat neutral, but there's hints of like that's kind of weird. Like, why would they talk really bad about cheese and dairy?
Natural socialism.
And it's like,
Naturally-
like
socialism.
aged cheese, dry aged cheese has been shown to be extremely good for our health, right? Like there's plenty of studies on
Probiotics.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially dry aged cheese.
The older a hard cheese, like a hard yellow cheese, the longer it ages and matures,
Yeah,
the better it is.
The better it, more enzymes it has, better
Yeah.
for your gut, etc.
Taste is.
Yeah. So they're poo pooing all over it, right? In the first episode. And I'm like, weird. And milk as well. Milk from cows, poo pooing on it. Okay. A little bit weird, but that's okay. All right, we'll move on. Episode 2. And they really just start.
You're a
off-
monster
they,
if you eat
They
meat.
just go for it in episode 2. Like, I mean, they are. Meat is demonized. It's horrible for you. Satanists eat it. People die from meat consumption. People,
Satanist.
oh, I don't know. They're spewing all this crap about
See,
it.
this is what I understand.
Wait.
All right.
So I stop, right?
Yeah.
Episode 2, 10 minutes into it, I'm like, this is bullshit. I start doing some research, found out that the director, the producer, the whole team, basically a bunch of vegans.
Here's cheese.
Everything's just rubbish, right? The whole thing's rubbish. So there's like obese people on there. They're targeting like the omnivores with like diets who have Maccas as a daily diet and saying that meat eaters are like, obese
Who
fat.
said that Macca's as a daily diet was healthy?
Them.
No one said it.
That's what they're
It's universally known. Macca's
Right.
is fast food.
But that's what they're comparing it to. They're comparing like people who are eating Maccas every day or fast food to people that are on vegan diets and saying, well, the vegan diets are way better. Then someone's sort of broken down the actual studies that they did. And even on those shitty diets, so they found out that the vegans were given lower calories than the omnivores. So they lost weight, but they didn't say that in the show. They had clearly given them less calories.
Misleading, man. Standard.
It's the biggest Netflix rubbish shows, rubbish creators. Yes. question.
I actually.
Question from the guy in the back.
How much stock do you put in documentaries nowadays?
None.
How much what?
Stock do you put
as
in a
in
documentary?
None.
As in what? Like time and effort?
Credibility. Do you give a documentary
No,
nowadays?
not zero at this point.
Yeah,
Zero.
dude. Before this new computer, I was running 4 hard drives. All right, each one was for specific thing.
Hentai, porn.
One hard drive was for movies. One hard drive was for TV shows. One hard drive was for documentaries, and one was for games.
movies.
Furries. Furries.
And one was for games. Yeah,
Yeah.
the documentary one.
Hentai, porn.
I never made my way through it because I had so many on the
Yeah.
documentary. I used to love watching docos all the time.
Yeah.
but then
Unless it's one like Animal World or what? With
like
what's his
animal,
name?
like it was
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Unless
Yeah.
it's one of those, I'll for sure watch that.
But it was like it was a mixture of everything. So it was like ancient world, Rome, Greece, Gauls, Aztecs. Then it'd go to the Middle East and the Crusades, and then it'd be like the Byzantium Empire.
Seeing a theme here, but yeah, go on.
What I'm saying is that it would go from there.
What's the theme? War is coming.
A scabbard is needed. No, because those eras, they're pretty.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
They're pretty fixed. Yeah. The narrative on those is pretty fixed,
Yeah.
unless you start to introduce like new ideas that historians hold nowadays. The absolute newer stuff. It's already kind of established.
Yeah.
Then I'd have stuff that would be like Middle Ages, or then it'd be like about food, and it'd be about like cultural stuff. It could be about discovery, 7 episodes about the new discoveries of New World. Like South America, North America, Oceania, all that stuff. Coming into contact with different cultures and stuff.
Yeah.
I never made my way through it because it's just so much. And then just slowly over time, like I used to love watching them, I've just stopped watching them because it just became too driven by ESGs, by
It's
ideology.
propaganda messaging.
Yeah, because it could just be so easily skewed as to, like you were saying, like withholding information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Documentary is supposed to be based on fact and find and stuff like that, and then once you manipulate the data, it's a fiction at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
So why call it a doco? It's not.
Like they had Vikings. That originally was aired on the History Channel. And so you take, all right, well, this is a history channel, so therefore it should be fairly accurate about what they're showing. There's no even near it.
No, nowhere close. Yeah.
This is the problem, right? With the upgrade and development of media shit, now people can make docos using their phones, right? Editing and shit. Back in the days, you had to have a production company, you had to have a studio, you had to have a budget.
Yeah.
You couldn't afford to make a doco that was etched in bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it cost you too much money to make, and there'd be one doco coming out every year.
Yeah.
Everyone would scrutinize the shit out of it, and that'd be that. It's like in 1963, we had one documentary about, the Germans. You know what I mean? Now, every dickhead and their brother is doing a doco on YouTube about the real Nazis or the Illuminati or whatever bullshit they want to pull out. Do you know what I mean? And you can't fact check any of that. But you look at the production value, to me, who's actually made film and media, I see the production value for 2 seconds. I'm like, this is bullshit. Some dickhead in his basement made it. But to every other Joe Blow, oh, this is fantastic. This is so real. It's like, dude, do you know how many arguments, especially during COVID, how many arguments I had with people when they'd spew their spurious facts? I'm like, where'd you see this? Saw a doco on YouTube. You're a dickhead.
Which AI created that?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You're a fucking idiot. I'm not saying that you can't have high production value on YouTube or in a home-based production, because I've done that. But the ratio is way out of whack, man.
Yeah, I think your information needs to be accurate. You can't be skewing this stuff, because if anybody who's smart, like anybody who consumes whatever you've put out there, they're going to then look into it.
Yeah, but most people don't fact check. It's in us. We fact check.
Yeah. But most people will look at it and be like, oh, this must be it.
Yeah, the first thing I did after I watched Heaven, what's it called?
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven was I fact checked it, right? Because I wanted to see how far off the market was, and they did take some liberties, But I get it because they're not making it. Someone said they were criticizing the movie, right? One of the critics saying, "Oh, it's so inaccurate. Baldwin wasn't this and this and this and that." And then another critic responded to that critic saying, "I'm pretty sure when Ridley Scott set out to make this movie, he wasn't trying to make a fucking doco."
Yeah.
Like literally
It's
those
entertainment.
words.
Yeah.
He's making a movie. There are going to be liberties taken, in order to enhance the movie.
You take
as
the
a
source
movie.
material, you work with that, you
Yeah.
keep what you think will attract people. At the end of the day, you've got to make sure the people are entertained
Yeah.
and they're getting their value of time.
Exactly. We're making a movie here for Hollywood. We're not making a documentary with Dave Attenborough. That's the big, big difference. But the problem is most dickheads will not fact check something and they see things and automatically assume that's what it is.
But I think also, yeah, exactly. But then I think something as well is that they've started a lot now is like this is based on a true story.
Yeah, because it builds that exciting narrative of, oh, this really happened.
Yeah. So then everything, therefore, you see happened.
No,
No.
no,
Yeah, exactly.
it didn't.
But then that's what happens. People will do watch it. Like you said, they don't fact check.
No one does.
Yeah.
No one fact checks.
I
like,
don't watch into it, watch something, and then go fact check. I'll watch it. Then, all right, that's a cool area. I want to read up on it. And then as I'm reading up on it, like, oh, actually, that didn't actually happen.
I think it just depends on what you're watching. Like if it's something that is controversial
Yeah.
and you know about it or you like it and you're like, I don't remember that being the case or I didn't know that was the story behind it, then you go and fact check and be like, let me read up more to make sure that I'm not getting confused.
You guys never watched Bowling for Columbine, did you? With
No.
Michael Moore. All right.
No.
I watched it once or twice, right? And then I did the fact check on the thing. And it was fairly accurate with what he said, but a few things that were skewed, and it really changed the narrative of everything, right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that he changed initially was the number of casualties in America due to firearm deaths, right? He had like all the statistics across the world, like 6 in Australia for year, whatever, blah, 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 stacks up. And then there's America, which is like, quadrillion times more than all the other countries combined. The problem with that statistic was, while it was accurate, he had taken the accounts of the number of deaths in military, fire munition discharges by accident, civil, friendly fire, military casualties. You can't include a military casualty in a firearm statistic where you're targeting like an
Civilians.
Urban. Yeah, we're talking about school shootings here. You've got Columbine as the biggest the feature piece of this doco, but you're using military casualties as part of the statistic to
fluff it
highlight
up.
your point.
Yeah.
Technically not wrong, but very misleading, right?
But only if every other country also didn't have military statistics.
Exactly, and they didn't.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's the point, right? Then there's another part where this is another edit, right, which is deceiving. They interviewed Charlton Heston at the end, right, and he was the president of the NRA at the time, right? They're interviewing him, and then at the end, when he starts bringing up Columbine and school shootings and victims and stuff, they make it seem like Heston walked out of like the interview, right, and just turned his back on it. When you look at the actual production notes and see the raw footage, he doesn't actually just leave and turn away as if he's ignoring their questions. He says goodbye to them and gets up and walks away.
Yeah.
But they edit it to make it look like he just got up abruptly and just didn't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Editing's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I fact-checked it and saw this, so I got an understanding of it. Still a great documentary in regards to what the message is, because he does talk about Columbine, does talk about things that went under the radar, but at the same time, he's still using tricky narratives and
Yeah, of course.
editing
There's an
to
agenda
spin
to
it.
reach
Yeah.
that he's trying to target, and he's
The problem now is
Swerving
because of
through
ESGs, everything is agenda-driven, and they're just trying to highlight for sensationalism because some dickhead that it was a nobody yesterday is suddenly a viral star on YouTube and making a living out of it. The biggest example to date now that I can think of is your mate Matt Walsh. That What Is a Woman doco, I downloaded it, I watched it, informative, and pretty powerful shit. When you fact check it, some of what he's saying is true. A lot of what he's saying is misskewed or just misleading or just outright wrong. When he was on Rogan and he was talking about the millions of kids that are getting subjected to hormone blockers, when they actually looked it up, it was like a few hundred to 1,000 out of the whole population of America over like a decade or something, as opposed to Matt Walsh saying, oh, it's in the millions for sure. And he's like, don't fact check me on this, but it's got to be in the millions. Like, dude, you made a doco based on this. You don't even know the one statistic, which is key to your whole doco.
Yeah.
How many kids are actually subjected to this? Oh, it's got to be in the millions. What do you mean it's got to be in the millions? Is it or is it not? And it wasn't. by a big... I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Big difference is saying
a
million people were killed in Sarajevo or 1,000 people were killed in Sarajevo. Big fucking difference. Not saying it's right. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's the problem, man. And that's how it's going to keep going because
of course.
more and more people have got access to shit. We're not vetting anything. There's no law on it.
There's no filter.
There's no law. There's no filter. You put a little disclaimer right at the end.
Tiny text.
May not be based on real events. Sponsored by that liberal company. You know, and it doesn't matter. You can write it, wipe your hands of it. You know, so many people sit there and say, "Oh, well, it wasn't meant to be taken literally." Dude, you made this film saying it was a documentary.
Yeah.
How is it not meant to be taken literally? Speaking of which,
everything is linked to money, which is
but that's the
problem.
point. Yeah, it's linked to money.
Everyone's going to
Notoriety.
skew it so that you go back to them and
Yeah.
keep getting your misinformation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, the person will just shit in their own pool and just pollute the waters that way.
Self-explode. Yeah,
exactly.
implode,
Like
yeah.
Matt Walsh is doing now. He's an idiot. He had it and he went overboard because he just kept trying to drain the well. Now he's out of material. Other thing I was going to say was Australia Day.
Yes.
I know you don't
What
want to
about
touch on it, but I'm just making a point.
I'm happy to talk about it.
What are you targeting me for?
Because you said you groaned as soon as I mentioned it.
Australia Day?
Yeah.
I don't even remember you mentioning it.
Well, you need more vitamins, man.
Delusional.
Australia Day. They took all the Safeways refusing to have Australian
And
flags
so
out.
Reject Shop decided to display it all.
Did they?
Yeah.
Good marketing move.
Well, everyone's going to go there to buy flags.
Yeah. ESGs. That's a decision purely based on ESGs. That's investment money that they're looking forward to.
This is the thing.
Coles.
Whether
Woolies.
you agree
Yeah.
that Australia Day should be on the 26th of Jan or whatever, blah, 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 we should change the date, that's up for discussion. Look, I get it, all right? Okay, this is the difference, all right? I tried to think of where else this has happened, all right? And I thought of this. I remember in 2003 when I was at TAFE,
Yeah.
my industrial relations teacher in TAFE was this Irish guy.
Yeah.
Fucking angry as shit, yeah? He's like, I've got an Irish guy teaching me industrial relations and like affirmative action. Perfect. He was talking about the Vietnamese that were protesting in Box Hill because they kept having these protests while we were there. And it's because they were flying the North Vietnamese flag for some dignitary or some shit, some festival, I don't know what it was. And all these Southern Vietnamese came out protesting saying that's a flag of oppression, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, no, they won the war. Like, they won the war. You left Vietnam, but if you were living there, this is the flag that you'd be flying.
Yeah.
You can't fly your flag because that is like a Confederate flag now, right? It's like, if you want to fly it, go ahead, reap the consequences for it, but you can't complain that the victors of that war and the leading government is now flying their flag like in this area because...
This is the norm.
Yeah, and he turned around and was like, I'm sorry, but you lost the war. They've got the right to fly the flag. It's not an oppressive symbol. That was a war, a civil war. Now, the Indigenous community here didn't get a chance in civil war. They just got overrun and bulldozed.
Yeah.
It wasn't a civil war. It was colonialism. That's the difference.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Would they have had a chance at winning should there have been a war?
No.
All right, well.
No. But it wasn't a war. It was colonialism.
Yeah.
Right? And they were like, obviously...
But the outcome would be the same.
They were subjugated. They were put into slavery. They were whatever, right?
Yeah.
I get that. I can see why changing the date would sting, members of the Indigenous community.
Yeah, clearly they went through it.
No, I'm just making a point.
Yeah,
right?
no.
I can see why it would be a sore point because it's not like it's ancient history.
Yeah,
like,
no, I'm pissed about my ancestors too.
I know you are.
Horrifying.
Right? But Woolies not selling flags on Australia Day, that makes no sense because what that says
That's
is...
companies getting involved in politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What that says is our flag is not worth flying. That makes no sense. If you want to argue that the day itself should be changed in order to show a bit more respect to Indigenous traditional landowners, I get the argument. And there's a discussion to be had, in the least, right? But for a company to turn around and say we're not selling flags...
But what does that mean, traditional landowners?
Literally that, John.
But what does it mean? Yeah, but what? What? Like, as in what?
As in, they were here first.
Okay.
And they got massacred.
And?
That's it. That's what it means.
Technically, the dinosaurs were here first, so everyone needs to pay respects to the dinosaurs.
Oh, God.
And I'm sure the Wonga Wonga tribe that occupied what is current, modern day Oakley didn't, fight the Bonga Bonga tribe that was current day Oakley and kill them and take that land over.
Yeah, exactly. There's a big point to make there, but anyway.
That's this internal disputes.
How is that different? That's a form of civil, like
We're talking
domestic
about one
colonialism.
tribe that's arguing.
Yeah, but
against all the other
that's civil
tribes.
unrest between two tribes.
Yeah.
It's different to
Well,
colonialism.
many tribes.
That's not really. War is like war. Like
I
that's
love
the
how
same
we started
thing.
2024 off by being cancelled.
Sure, why not?
Right.
And frees up more time for me.
Wow.
Wow.
Oof.
Wow.
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 Cross the cheddar line right there.
Wow. I actually got into an argument today with a woman at work.
Why?
A co-worker. Because she's like...
Was she Aboriginal?
No, she's Aussie. And she's like... I can't remember why it even came up, but she was like, oh, Australia Day's coming. Oh, next weekend is Australia Day. Or I should say Invasion Day. I just looked at her. And like... And what country exactly was invaded? And she's like, oh, Australia. I go, there was no country there. There was multiple tribes, but there was no actual country.
No, they weren't sovereign states or anything.
Yeah,
It was
it was just a bunch of tribes. And this one here, which is interesting because I remember her used to complain about her daughter who was very outspoken as far as the woke agenda stuff. And she was very up against it. And now within the span, the daughter got married. Within a year, was already divorced, moved back home. And then now with her being at the house now about a year and a half, her tone has slightly started to change. Like, it is a bit of an infection, isn't it?
So how did she take you saying
She was very surprised.
there was no country here? How'd she take that?
Well, she was very surprised because she wasn't expecting any pushback. Because I usually just stick to myself. I don't talk about anything.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's an area that just annoys me. And it's just like, well, because then she was like, oh, because, that date, it should be Australia wasn't formed on that day. Okay, yeah, that's true. But it's not like people were killed on that day either. This day it's the day that when Captain Cook just arrived.
I was going to say, Captain
It was just
Cook,
the day Captain
as
Cook
the
arrived.
boats coming in, they start picking off
Yeah,
dudes
the boats
on
just
the
rocked
shore.
up. This is ours.
Dude, they're just picking off
Out of
dudes
the way,
with
you.
muskets, man.
Because that's exactly how it happened.
Just to clear off the path of where
Yeah.
the jetty's going to be. Just body's falling. What are you doing, man? He's like, testing out my 6-shooter.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, but people, no, not on that day. It's the day that they arrived in the cove, whatever you call it.
But like I said, I'm happy to have that discussion. That makes sense, right? I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, right? I can see why people would have a sore point with it because they see it as the beginning of the end.
No one had a problem with this until about 10 years ago when, ESG started rocking up.
Do you reckon it's been 10 years?
Oh, about that, 15.
I think we were discussing it when the first season of the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did have an episode specifically about Australia Day.
I never remember anything when I was in school being like woke discussions. And that was 2008 when I stopped, like when I finished. So
No, we started talking about how you shouldn't discriminate against for any reason, as in like race, gender, like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but that's different. That's just being polite and considerate.
yeah, it's common sense.
That's common sense. We're talking
about targets.
That is different because that's specifically picking one to raise up over another.
No, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with anything you guys are saying, like, at all. We are pretty much on the same level here. We've got slightly different angled views coming in, but essentially it all revolves around...
It is only in Western countries where the governments will self-flagellate over past conquered natives. You look at any other country in the world that is not Western or speaks English, they do not give two shits about
they've
the
got bigger
natives that were
issues.
conquered.
Yeah, and the biggest the big indicator of that is the fact that most of the Western nations that self-flagellate aren't third world countries. They got more pressing problems in third world or developing nations.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about ESGs. We're struggling to feed our people here. We haven't got clean water. I don't care about your agenda. That's literally it.
Spain is pretty up there as well now, apparently. Like, it's just as... the way Spain is going, from what I've been seeing, it's very on par with Canada and America at the moment.
I'm trying to think, what did I was there last year for like, a week, 10 days. I'm just trying to think, what did I see? I don't remember any particular.
It's the only one that kind of stands out in Europe, considering it's Spain. Like, they're the monster.
An Italian cherry picking is Spain. Spain for, conquistadors. He's going to come sailing in to take over. What are they called? The
You want to piss off them like
the bullfighters have the LGBT flag.
yeah.
No, what are they?
For some reason, only aims for the bottom of the flag.
What's the name of the You've got the two ethnic groups, as in
Basque and
Basque, and what's the other one? Catalan.
yeah.
Yeah, and they were trying to have the independent thing. They're pretty, what's it called? They're pretty vocal about that shit over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Spanish.
Says an Italian. Says an Italian.
Hey. I want to make something clear.
No, you go.
All right?
If you talk about Columbus, I'm going to be disappointed.
I want to talk about Columbus.
I don't know, because every Italian says that Columbus was Italian and he just flew under the Spanish flag. They forget
He was
that
Italian.
he was actually born in Greece. But anyway,
Oh, was he? I don't know. No, he was born in Genoa, wasn't he?
that's what I want you to think, John.
Okay.
Poor-
Everyone was born in Greece, even Gandhi.
Hey, Italians, come on. Be serious.
Gandhi Thermopolis.
Be serious. All right, I'm going to fact check that because I'm pretty sure there's some truth to it. But anyway, continue.
What, the Gandhi's born in Greece?
No, that it
He said Thermopylae.
Idiot.
Thermopolis.
Oh, Thermopolis.
no that Columbus was from Greece. I'm pretty sure it was from
Genoa.
Crete. I'm serious. You don't worry. I'm finding this now.
I don't know. I mean, he's not my personal hero. No, nothing. I got nothing.
What are you saying?
I don't even remember now.
You're a dickhead. Place of birth. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's disputed. It is like Genoa is like generally what they say.
Do you think the Greeks give a crap about the Thracians, or the Turks about the Greeks, or the Italians about the Etruscans, or the freaking...
Only to conquer new things.
Exactly. Like, nobody cares. Move on.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah. If you have time to care about that, something's wrong.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah, because then I said to her, okay, that's right. Because I said, people who just keep harping on about that, they just need to get a job. They've got nothing going on
They're
in their
bored.
lives. They're bored.
Yeah.
And she just looked at me.
are you serious?
Yeah,
You said that?
yeah.
I would have said the same thing.
And then, because then it's like, this is the first time I've heard you voice that type of opinion to her. And I'm like, it's your daughter. It's 100% your daughter. Because you told me your daughter went to the BLM marches in Melbourne when they had him during COVID.
Yeah.
She went to this, she went to that. She's all about, you were complaining to me that she was all about all this new stuff.
Do you think people are just becoming more and more dumb? Or what is it? Lack of education?
No, I think it's such a in-your-face ideology that you have to, not kowtow, but it's just like, it's easier to just submit to it. And just like, all right, I accept it. Than just stand your ground.
I accept it. Go away.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say,
But then that's not enough. You have to actually voice it. You have to puppet it.
Got to be part of the movement.
the
Yeah.
ethnic or national origin of explorer Christopher Columbus has been a source of speculation since the 19th century. The consensus among historians is that Columbus's family was from the coastal region of Liguria. He was
Yeah.
born and spent his boyhood and early youth in the Republic
Liguria.
of Genoa. But they say that Chios, which is an island in Greece close to Turkey now, I think it's actually part of Turkey now. My grandfather was actually from there. That was part of the Republic of Genoa.
Okay, maybe.
So they floated it. But there's this one guy reviewing all these. Other hypotheses exist, none of which are broadly accepted. Reviewing them, British historian Philippe Fernandez Amesto writes, the Catalan, French, Galician, Greek, Ibizan, Jewish, Mallorcan, Scottish, and other Columbuses concocted by historical fantasists are agenda-driven creations usually inspired by a desire to arrogate a supposed or confected hero to the cause of a particular nation or historic community, or more often than not, to some immigrant group striving to establish a special place of esteem in the United States. The evidence of Columbus's origins in Genoa is overwhelming. Almost no other figure of his class or designation is left, so clear a paper trail in the archives.
Is
Is this what people find fun? Like, do they have... Like, my free time is taking a shit these days.
So,
I don't understand why people give a crap.
what's your knowledge on academics?
For what? In terms of what?
In general, like the historians and stuff.
I mean, basic to none?
So they are like schoolgirls.
Yep.
Okay.
If they can show up a colleague or a peer that gets their name out, that's their day.
Yeah, okay.
That's them validated as a historian.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I righted it wrong. Yeah.
So they don't actually do.
Yeah, but these people are saying theories. They're not basing fact.
No. So how do you? This is just pure, just as a question. Like a historian. How do you think they find out about a historical topic.
Well, I assume it's either word of mouth or from experience.
No.
No.
So they find primary sources. So they find a source that was written down in a book.
Oh, that's what I meant by word of mouth. Like,
Okay,
someone that has
yeah.
originally experienced or written something, and then
so they'll try and find a primary source that's a peer at the time.
Yeah.
So a contemporary at that time that was either there or witnessed it, or can relate it from hand account. If they can't, I think they usually try to find two primary sources. If they can't, then they rely on secondary sources. Secondary sources are usually people that are like a couple hundred years later, but they try to avoid that.
Yeah.
But if they do, they try to verify it with a primary source. And if they can't, then they will rely on like multiple secondaries that all have to be valid.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find
Which
that.
is pretty scary because, like, we know how bad the human information
Ego
is.
Yep.
You have an accident, you don't really know what's going on, you only know one side of what you've seen or heard, but your adrenaline's pumping, you've probably missed all these details.
Yep.
Someone else
Human
will then come
beings
in.
are prone to
We're terrible.
to misjudge things that are right in front of us. Man.
There's like, we know certain civilizations existed because of meticulous record keeping by the Romans, the Greeks, the Jews, the Chinese.
When those own nations didn't have record keeping.
Yeah.
But that's the point. Like, I can appreciate someone in a dusty library somewhere pulling up manuscripts, reading something, interpreting it from like an ancient language that doesn't even exist anymore, and cluing in on a phrase or a word where it's like, hang on, what the hell is this? That's been misinterpreted, that's been reiterated, that actually means this. Shit, we might be on a whole new civilization here. So they go back and start looking for more examples of something they overlooked. I can appreciate that, right? Columbus. Was he Italian? Was he Greek? Was it? Who gives a shit?
Doesn't really matter.
The consensus is that he's from Genoa. There's clear cut like narrative like that he was from Genoa. Was he from here because here was a part of the Republic of Genoa? I don't really give a fuck because it doesn't change anything about what he did, right? It's like, okay, like, so you look at the historical figures like Christ, Muhammad, all that sort of thing. I love that they go back and start digging through every historical reference of figures like that because they're part of bigger movements. Do you know what I mean? The life and times of Jesus Christ, Muhammad, and so on, they have influenced and changed the course of history. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I watched a YouTube video not that long ago about the earliest references of Jesus Christ. And not just in writing, but like where the first figures of him were and the incarnations of him. So they went back to ancient Egypt because there was like a Coptic Orthodox church, an Eastern Orthodox church in Egypt, and there was a figure on the wall which they figured out was Christ. You know what I mean? And we're talking like closer to the date of his death as opposed to like when he first turned up in literature. I can appreciate that because someone went out and fucking
Did the work
to find it. Because we're talking about a figure like Jesus that's been instrumental in wars, in politics, in like, you know what I mean? Now we're talking about Columbus here. Did it matter? It could have been from, Romania. Who gives a shit?
Well, the big thing like now in America, in the UK is like they're portraying a lot of they're portraying and crediting a lot of feats and like feats of construction and even historical figures to black Africans.
Okay.
But we're talking about like Roman era generals and soldiers and emperors. And they're saying like, well, this general here was African,
Right.
so he was black. Like, well, you look at it, it was like the Iberian coast, and it was Spanish, and it was occupied by a Roman governor, just the same way as Cleopatra would be Greek. There's the same way this guy would be Roman. His family was stationed in Africa or Iberia, the Iberian Peninsula, but his family was Roman.
So his ethnicity was all Roman, but he just happened to be stationed in northern
His
Africa.
family was stationed in Africa. So he's not African black, he's just born in Africa, but to a Roman family. Then they're attributing like the construction of like the standing stone. What are the stones in England? What are they called?
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. To like African construction. I'm like,
What were Africans
what
doing?
were Africans
in
doing
England?
in like 2000 BC in the British Isles? Did they have the boat technology to get there.
Oh, that's a good
and
stay,
build
innit?
that. It's like, yeah, like that's not the point. The point is, it's just like, why are you trying to change it? Like, it doesn't really matter.
Because they think it's a way of like evening the score. It makes them social justice warriors.
ESGs.
It gives them validation.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Black Cleopatra shit.
Yeah.
I got into so many arguments online with idiots over this.
This is
and I just
idiots,
gave
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. I said my piece. I did what I did, and I just left it there. The reality of the fact of the matter is that Cleopatra was from the lineage of Ptolemy. They were northern Macedonian Greeks. She spoke ancient Greek, like she spoke multiple languages, but the ethnicity and whatever facades we have left of her clearly point to like a Southern European woman.
Yeah.
They're playing her out like she looked like, Serena Williams. Like, dude, no.
Like,
Like, no.
like Macedonia, all right? I know this comes up all the time. He's Greek.
Yes.
Macedonia was a Greek city.
Yeah.
It probably had a population of Balkans in there, probably.
It still does.
Yeah. But it doesn't
And
mean
the
he
more
was
north-
Balkan.
The more north
Yeah, yeah.
you go,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
speak, you go over the borders, most of them speak like Slavic.
The interesting thing is, like, up until, like, I think it was, like, pre-400 BC, Macedonians within the Greek cities weren't considered Greeks
No,
to them.
Greece didn't exist.
No, but what I'm saying is they didn't consider them, like, Greek in the sense like the Greek cities were.
No. They were all sovereign states.
Yeah, but they were in the same way like the Italian states as well.
Yeah.
They were Italian, but they were in the Italian state, like, if that makes sense. Like,
Okay.
Italy was referenced, the land mass of Italy was Italy,
Yeah.
but there's never a nation Italy until,
Oh, yeah.
1900. So
Yeah.
in the same sense as the Greek states,
Yeah.
the land mass was Greece, but
You still had Spartans, you had Athenians, you had
they were
Thracians.
Greeks.
Yeah.
They were all Greeks, but finger quotes. They were all Greeks, but they were all city states.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as the Greek city states were concerned, like anything before 400 BC, Macedonians weren't considered Greeks. They'd look down on them. After Alexander comes and goes, they're considered the epitome of a Greek. They include them in texts and everything.
yeah.
After 400 BC, after he's come and gone, that he is an actual Greek. They are a Greek city.
Yeah.
They're like the epitome. Things change, but at the end of the day, he was Greek.
Yeah.
But it's just maybe because there's that influence of a little bit of Greek Balkan population in there, it gets mixed, muddled as far as like outside sources.
I think a lot of it comes down to what he was saying, which is like ego. Most people's
Yeah.
ego, they want to be represented by someone
it's also
powerful.
identity.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how many Macedonians I got into arguments with when they try to tell you that, what are you talking about, blah, blah. It's like, you fucking idiots. I should have brought my mate, the Serbian, in here. Because I once, he asked me what I believed the rundown was and how it all formed. And I gave him mine. He goes, that's pretty much it. And then he repeated it back to me in not so subtle and diplomatic ways. And he's like, end of the day, after the Yugoslavian war, there were a bunch of poor people stuck in the southern corner, stuck between Sarajevo and northern Greece. They had nowhere to go, so they just claimed the closest identity. They couldn't fuck with the Yugoslavians because they'd probably get wiped out. So they figured Greece was an easy target and just picked up the name that was bordering their thing and claimed it as their own identity.
Now I've asked you this, but I didn't get clarification. The land that they're in now, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, that landmass is an actual what Macedonia was.
It was Yugoslavian.
That's more
It was
to the
Yugoslavian.
north. Yeah,
They just appropriated the name.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The actual landmass is up north more, isn't it? Towards like that coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, dude, it's this imbalance, yeah? Like, I've got a neighbor who's Turkish, right? And we're talking about Turkish genocides that have been
As you
committed
do
by...
over a coffee with your neighbour.
Yeah, right? And she was born in Turkey.
Yeah.
And she refused to acknowledge that actually happened. She's like,
Which one?
that the genocides actually happened.
Oh, yeah.
The Armenian genocide, the Pontian genocide, the Kurdish genocide, like all the genocides that are well documented, right? Refused to, because in her mind, it was wartime and they were just atrocities on both sides. I said, no, this wasn't wartime. This was during an occupation. These were literal genocides of Pontians, of Kurds, and that wasn't during wartime. That was during occupation. There was no, it wasn't during a battle of independence or anything, and you could say there were casualties on both sides. This was literally the removal and genocide of specific people. That's why Armenians and Greeks get along, right? Because we've got a common enemy. I'm not blaming my Turkish friends for it. I'm just making a point. And she refused to see it. Then, like a year later, she calls me up, messages me, and she goes, I got to apologize to you. I'm like, why? She goes, I was thinking about what you said because we brought it up again in another convo. So she called her old man in Turkey, and her old man likes history and shit like that. He's like, no, your friend's right. Like your friend's actually right. And so she called me up to apologize about it. I brought up the Cyprus issue, and that was the other point of contention. And I've got a Turkish mate here who she had said Turks need to wear that for the next, until that's actually corrected, we need to wear it as a stain on our past, and that's just how it is. Cyprus, the northern part of Cyprus, was invaded by Turkey. No provocation, nothing other than just a land grab in the 70s. And that's why you have all the displaced Cypriots here in Melbourne now, right? I brought up this to this Turkish neighbour, refused to accept it, thought it was just casualties of war. Okay, there was no war, dude. It was literally overnight. Turkey, the
tanks rolled in.
Yeah, tanks just rolled in, kicked. That guy, 1 in 3 kids in Oakley were Cypriot. You think that's by accident? The whole fucking island got removed. No, that can't be right. I'm like, okay. Went back to Royal Man, did some more reading, apologised to that as well.
I'm sorry, but the biggest stain on Turkey's name is not those things.
Right.
It's actually the conquering of Byzantium and the final end of the Roman Empire.
One day Constantinople will return.
That scabbard, baby, it burns a hole in my side.
I love it. It's the Byzantium Empire.
Yeah.
Essentially Pan-Hellenicism with an Italian twist to it. Yeah, that's the biggest stain for the Ottoman Empire.
It is.
You're a dickhead.
That's officially the end of the Roman Empire.
You should never be allowed to breed.